In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some of the best things that you can purchase during your 20s to set yourself up for a life of financial freedom. This is a direct response to a video I made a month ago that actually spoke about the things you should avoid during that same time period. And as I have just turned 30 years old with 10 years worth of failures and successes, by the way, I feel like I'm a good candidate to make this video. So if you're interested in finding out more about this, then stick around, like this video down below to help it out with the YouTube algorithm, and let's get started. All right, so number one purchase that you should be making during your 20s that is going to really help you in the future is buying yourself a good laptop. Now, this isn't probably the first thing that you're expecting me to come up with in this video, but boy, let me tell you now. Whilst this laptop right here actually cost me over £2,000 at the time, this laptop right here is actually responsible for 95% of the money I actually make. This laptop is also the absolute core of every single thing I do in my life. I wouldn't be able to make these YouTube videos without this laptop, and I wouldn't be able to run the multiple side hustles that I do without this laptop either. One thing I do recommend is actually purchasing a laptop over a desktop PC. This is simply because you can take a laptop anywhere in the world, pretty much giving you the opportunity to start a business or make money anywhere you want. But in short, one of the best purchases to go ahead and buy straight away in your 20s is a good and reliable laptop. Now, it doesn't need to be the most expensive one on the market, but also don't go and pick up the cheapest one that is going to potentially break in a year as well. Find one that is going to give you the things that you need to do, and one that is of course reliable. Purchase number two is going to be a cheap and reliable used car. Now, going back to the video when I talked about the things to avoid in your 20s, I really hammered home the fact that you should be avoiding going out and buying a brand new car in your 20s, putting it on finance and seeing that car lose half of its value the second you drive it off the forecourt. Now, the alternative option in this video is to go out and buy a good and reliable used car that is likely going to cost you at least half the price. I am extremely guilty of falling into this mistake, because one thing that I did in my early 20s was I blew £11,000, which was my entire savings budget, on a brand new shiny car, and then I actually spent the next 5 years trying to bring that money back and recuperate my savings whilst my car was simply just depreciating in value. And I know it's going to be hard as your friends get their first decent paycheck probably around this age, and the first thing they do is go out and pick up a brand new Mercedes or a brand new BMW on finance, and you're sat there with your beat up used car. But trust me, if you just give it 10 years or maybe 15 years, from a financial standpoint, you are going to be so much more thankful, because you're going to be in such a better position, because the money that you have saved up, you're going to be able to put it to more productive things. So get yourselves out there and get yourselves a cheap, second-hand, reliable car, or maybe even share a car with maybe a family member, a friend, or a housemate, because at the end of the day, the way the world is moving right now, everything can pretty much be done at home. We can now build businesses on our laptops at home, especially if you go out and buy a laptop, of course. We can now do our 9-to-5 jobs from home, and pretty much anything we need we can order and have delivered to our homes, and this is just making cars become less of a necessity throughout the years. All right, so number three is you are going to want to be purchasing an index fund, either in a UK stocks and shares ISA wrapper, or if you're in America, a Roth IRA. All right, so when you're in your 20s, putting money into an investment account and forgetting about it for the next 10, 15, or maybe even 20 years isn't going to be the most exciting purchase you're ever going to make. But once again, trust me, when you get to your 30s, your 40s, or maybe even your 50s, you will once again be extremely thankful for this from a financial standpoint. And the best thing about purchasing an index fund on a monthly basis and doing it within a tax efficient wrapper is that it's not actually about the amount of money you invest. What it is more about is the time that you invest over a certain period of time, of course, and that is the thing that is really going to build up and bring you those long-term interest gains in the future. And what I actually have right here is two really solid examples that proves this point quite well. Starting off with example number one, let's say you actually invested between the age of 30 and 50 years old, so a total of 20 years. And if you invested a bulk amount of £10,000 and didn't add anything more or withdraw anything at all, let's say you had a yearly interest rate of 10%, by the age of 50, what you would roughly have in your account is around £73,000, which actually isn't that bad, right? However, most 20-year-olds don't just simply have a spare 10 grand lying around on the side that they can just pump into an investment, but one thing that they do have is more time. And just taking a look at example number 2, where instead of actually starting at 30 years old, we actually decided to start at 20 years old through to 50. So what we have here is an extra 10 years. And instead of investing a bulk 10 grand, what we decided to do was invested a small £100 a month. What you would actually finish with at the same age is £227,000 to your name based on a 10% return every single year. Now, if you ask me, that difference is absolutely insane and just proves the point that it's more about your time invested in the market, not so much about the amount you're actually investing. So if you just started buying an index fund every single month with such a small amount like £100 off your salary, over the next 20 or 30 years, you are going to become extremely wealthy. Purchase number 4 to make in your 20s is going to be buying a property. Now, buying your first property is likely going to be the biggest purchase you will ever make in your entire lifetimes. And most people will do this towards the latter part of their 20s simply because it's going to be a point where they're going to have to save up for a deposit. But the earlier you can get on the property ladder, the easier it is going to become for you later on in life. Why is this so important? Well, let's just take a look at the average house price rise in the UK last year, and it was actually by an average of £31,000, which is actually more than the national average salary. And the thing to note here, however, is that whilst this is a massive rise, if you actually own a property, it's not actually going to do you too many favours, because of course, if your house is going up, the likelihood is all the other houses are going to go up in price. So it's not like you're going to be able to sell your house and buy a bigger property. The key thing here is if you're not on the property ladder, the longer you're not on this property ladder, the more you're going to fall behind and the harder it is going to be to get on it in the future. And I know some people will sit there and say that they are waiting for a housing crash, or maybe the market is going to crash in the future and they're just going to wait for their opportunity. If you have this opinion, that is absolutely fine. But one thing that I like to go off is actual data, and just taking a look at the past 50 or 60 years, the general trend for the housing market has been upwards with a few little dips and bumps throughout the way. Another thing is, if you're actually struggling for money to buy a house, one thing I recommend checking out is the government-backed lifetime ISA savings plan, also known as a LISA. And with this scheme, what you can actually do is invest up to £4,000 every single year. And what the government will actually do is add a further 25% on top of your deposits. So let's say you have been able to open one of these accounts and you have been able to max it out for 5 years. This would leave you £15,000 in your LISA account, which would actually allow you to put down a 5% deposit on a house that is worth £300,000 and potentially get a mortgage, of course, depending on your salary at the time. But this is a really easy way and more simplified way of actually getting onto the housing market with a little bit of help from the government. So there you go. Purchase number 4 is to try and get on the property ladder as soon as you possibly can. Purchase number 5 is going to be spending some money on traveling and networking. Now, don't get it twisted. When I say traveling, I'm not talking about booking a 2-week all-inclusive trip to the Maldives. What I'm talking about is getting out there and going to some networking events. So go to some conferences, go to some seminars, go to some public meetups. Get out there and meet new people by traveling, because you know what they say, your network is your net worth. And in my own personal opinion, there is no better time to do this in your 20s when you have absolutely zero responsibilities. Purchase number 6 is going to be investing into your own education. Now, once again, don't get this one mixed up with going out and spending £80,000 on a university course that you will likely not utilize and putting yourself in masses of debt. What I'm talking about here is going out, buying some books, attending some online courses or maybe in-person courses, and really starting to expand your knowledge on the topics that you want to learn about. This is something that I actually plan on continuing doing way beyond my 20s, because I personally believe that you can never stop learning. And just like the laptop, this one isn't going to be a direct ROI that you're going to potentially see from a figure point of view, but trust me, Going out and doing learning, reading books, taking some online courses has really helped me make a lot of money during my time in my 20s. One example that happened to me recently was I actually invested into a Photoshop course that actually helps you create thumbnails for your YouTube videos. So basically a thumbnail is the picture that you see before you click on the video, the thing that really makes you want to click the video. And what I've actually had from there is a few of my subscribers and friends actually reach out to me and ask me if they can pay me for me to create thumbnails for them. I haven't advertised anything, I haven't promoted anything. All I have done is invested in the course, and what they have seen is a massive improvement in my quality of work, and from there they want to get the same and they are happy to pay me. So that has just typically created a brand new potential revenue stream for me just from me investing into my own education. So whilst I do go on about this a lot on this channel, and I know it's probably getting a little bit boring if you are a regular viewer, but it is really one of the biggest things that I want to push because it does make you so much money from an indirect point of view. Invest in yourself, buy some books, do some learning, and trust me, it will make you a lot more money in the future. So there you have it, 6 purchases that you can make in your 20s that is going to potentially make you a lot of money in the future. Some of these purchases are direct ROIs where you're going to see the return on investment from them straight away, and some of them are ones where you're going to see it in maybe 10 or 15 years down the line, but all of them are extremely solid. So I hope you got some value from this video. Of course, if you did, I would really appreciate it if you left it a like down below, or maybe even left me a comment as well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I shall catch you guys in the next video. Take care.